I coordinated teams of journalists working on organized crime and corruption in countries like Colombia, in Peru, in Indonesia, Nepal, all over here. I worked in Bosnia, I worked here in Croatia and Serbia, everywhere. So what I want to share with you is a little bit of how I see this issue of corruption and organized crime, and I want to share this with you from a practical standpoint. I want to go through clear examples. I want to highlight how the media can deal with this problem, because I think there are solutions to this very important problem. Now, I heard here talks about corruption from inside Croatia. But what I want to talk more about is corruption that comes from the outside. Corruption that gets, that gets countries in its systems. Because corruption is not only fueled from inside a place, it's fueled mostly from outside. If you think about corrupt structures in a country, most of them could be, let's say, some companies involved in corruption, some persons involved in corruption. But usually what they use is structures that are always in markets. For instance, one very used tool by organized crime is the offshore company. You have ownership of companies insured through offshore companies. You have media that are owned through offshore companies. And this is the case not only here, but in many countries. For example, my country is Romania. And in Romania, about 80% of the media is owned by people who were convicted at some point or who have ongoing court cases against them for organized crime and corruption. So, and they own the media through offshore companies, companies based in Cyprus, companies based in various other islands. Now, I'll start my presentation with a few remarks. I'm sorry, I don't understand Croatian. Yes, I actually have here my presentation, so it's okay. So the idea is that information that doesn't seem relevant in a geography could be very important in a different geography. And I'll make my point with this. The second point is that information sometimes might be easier approached from abroad than from inside the country. And the third point is that value is created for all partners if they work in a network of investigative journalists. And I want to give you some clear examples. For instance, I spent the month of September in Argentina. I worked there for 1 month on a drug trafficking case that is connected to this region. It's the Saric case. This is a major drug trafficker here in the Balkans. His network was dismantled. You had persons who are in jail right now from various countries in this part of the world. But actually the case, or part of this case, of this drug trafficking case, happened in Uruguay and Argentina. So you had 2.5 tons of cocaine were seized in Uruguay and Argentina. And the police in these countries, in Uruguay and Argentina, cooperated with police in Serbia in order to fight these people, the Saric people. Now, what really happened was you had a few guys who are in jail right now from this network here in Serbia. Here in the Balkans, and then some people who are in jail in Argentina and Uruguay. Only a few of them. What happens though, if you talk to the judge who instrumented the case at that end in Argentina, is that you're going to find out that they have a wealth of information on this drug trafficking network. And you'll find out that, in fact, there are about 60 persons from the Balkans involved in this drug trafficking case. Now you'll see, so they have this data there, 60 persons. And you only have about 8 or 10 persons in jail here. And there are no longer convictions, there are no longer nothing in this important case. And that happens because there's always a disconnect when it comes to law enforcement cooperating across borders. Law enforcement has its national interest, and I'm not saying something new with it. But when it comes to investigating cross-border crime, this is very, very damaging. Because the interest of the Argentinian and the law enforcement in Uruguay was to seize those drugs and to arrest a few people that were involved in this drug trafficking case. The interest of the Serbians was to, again, arrest a few people. And they showed that they worked. They worked very well on this case. They have various guys in jail and stuff. But actually, if you look at how the network operates, you'll see that, that it's still operating right now, even if these guys are in jail or are on the run. So what's going on here? For instance, when I went to Argentina, I met this judge and I asked him for information on this case. He was so happy to give me everything. This is a picture of the files from his desk. And he gave me everything. He said, you have access to everything you want here. And he gave me a CD with info. He gave me everything that he had from the Serbian police that sent data to his country. So he gave me lots of access. Now, this sort of access doesn't always happen in our part of the world. It for sure doesn't happen in a country like Romania. It for sure doesn't happen in a country like Serbia. But when you're investigating cross borders, you meet various cultures. And each culture is different when it comes to access to information. This is actually why I said that sometimes information that you can get from abroad, it's easier to get. Sorry. I have been, for instance, investigating lots of cases of trafficking in human beings. And at some point, I was interviewing in a jail in Zenica one trafficker in this was back in 2004 or 2005, if I'm not mistaken. I interviewed a trafficker who was in jail, who was convicted for this crime. His name was Edin Beganovic. He was involved in a famous case in Bosnia where some women who were trafficked were also carrying HIV. And that created a huge scandal in a city in Bosnia. Anyway, Edin was in jail for this crime, but he was allowed to leave jail 4 days a month. And I actually interviewed him in the bar where he got busted. So he was allowed to leave jail for 4 days each month because he was not he was not considered a threat to society in those 4 days. In the other days of the month, he was a threat. So I met him, and Edin had a very good knowledge of all the networks. He knew lots of guys who were involved in trafficking from my country. He knew things I didn't know from my own country, about bars where they traffic women, about places where they actually keep women. So my point is, the traffickers cooperate very well. They have very good networks. They don't have any issues with jurisdictions, with ethnicity, with language, with nothing. They cooperate very well. And this leads to a situation when you have on one side the law enforcement that is hampered in its efforts by the lack of cooperation and borders, and then you have criminals that are, again, free to work. And then you have the third type of people here, and these are us, the journalists. I think in some way we can operate just like people who are involved in crime can. And this is, although this might sound very weird, but indeed I think that in journalistic networks, information flows much better than it does in official channels. I'm running right now a network. It's called the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. We are a consortium of centers for investigative journalists all over the region here. We have centers in Bulgaria, we have centers in Bosnia, in Serbia, Romania, in Ukraine, in Russia. And what we are doing is we're always targeting this type of transnational organized crime. Yeah. Go back to my presentation. So what we're trying is exactly this sort of crime that fuels corruption, not only at the highest level, because some people here were talking about corruption at higher level, at lower levels, but I think it's all intertwined. Corruption at the high level is the same with corruption at the low level. Because if you think about, for instance, if you think about a crime like drug trafficking, usually when we think about this, we think, okay, there are some traffickers, there are some people who take those drugs, that buy those drugs, there might be some facilitators of this crime. But really, what this crime does, it affects society on many, many levels. It's not just a horizontal crime. It affects society deep, down, and low and high. And when I'm saying this is, for instance, in 2007, I was working in Colombia, and I worked on a film on cocaine trafficking. And I went to the northern part of Colombia to see who are these guys, who are fueling the world with cocaine. 90% of the cocaine in the world comes from Colombia. And I was curious to see them, who are they? I went there, there are very high mountains there, and I had access, after being there for 2 weeks, I had access to a few coca labs that I could film. Actually, you could watch the film on Google videos.